Hello. The person next door is listening to something that's very droning. It sounds like. Can you hear it? Sounds like a person with a very deep voice talking, who's not taking a breath at all. I forgot to do something. I remembered almost all the things, but then I forgot one of the things. Did I spell parameterized correctly? Good question. It's not a great question, it's just a question. Appears to be correct. Parameter. No, I didn't spell it correctly. I spelled it incorrectly. Of course. Wouldn't be per. It'd be pair. How embarrassing. Give myself a misspelled title. How foolish of me. We want to do one more thing. And that thing is the following thing. And then we will start in earnest. So here's the thing about these streams. I do them, and then I just upload them. And I don't really think about it much because I don't want to, like, that would stress me out. Otherwise, I don't want to get into authoring and editing the content. I just want to do the thing and then post it. But I hadn't actually paid attention to one of the streams in a while, except for last week when I realized YouTube was messing them up. And the stream yesterday, I don't know if this is how it always is, but I was speaking so quickly. I think that's maybe it's a problem I've had in the past. Maybe it was my anxiety kind of ramping up a little bit. So I apologize for that. If I need like a special alert that someone can say, hey, just take your time. Slow down, it's not a race. You could just say what you want to say. Also, I feel like the music was too loud. And that's something I feel like I had tuned okay in Portland, but maybe it hasn't been good here. Maybe the music's been too loud, so that on the videos the music is distractingly loud. I apologize for that. What I hear is a bit different than what goes out. It looks like my voice is dramatically louder. Maybe I turned down the music too much. I'm not entirely sure. So we'll just see. We'll try to go with this quieter thing. So, by the way, I'm Scott. Hello, hi. And I am in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I am still the technologist in residence for the Children's Museum of Pittsburgh, working at Museum Lab. And we are getting closer. Are you a dupe? How's it going, Life is Yours? Life is Yours, how does the music... Is the music volume relative to my voice volume okay? Because I feel like it was too loud yesterday. And we're working on this residency project. And we've had some ups and downs. We've kind of explored. It's good, thank you. All kinds of different possibilities, done various studies. I feel like it's starting to take shape in a more concrete way. There are definitely some questions. One of the biggest questions is what display technology I want to use. Because I want it to be round. I think I want the thing to be round, and so it needs to be a projector. Wait, okay, the song was ending. Doesn't count. It could be a tad lower. The music could be lower. I feel like I made it so low. What if I move the mic closer to my face? It's a little tricky because I have, like, Pretzel is turned down to some insanely low level. It's at 2%. I could set it to 1% and then set the desktop volume higher. Okay, because that's just what I'm hearing. I see. I see. Okay, 1% volume. I don't know, man. Oh, could you hear the Windows sound? They're both maxed in OBS, but I'm watching the decibel levels in OBS. I don't know, man. I mean, it's significantly lower than it was yesterday, it seems. I'll listen to it later, and we'll see. But I think, unless this seems offensively loud, maybe we'll go with this for the moment. For a minute here. My microphone's running away from me a little bit. That's probably not helping. So, yeah, the display technology. I don't like projectors personally very much. There's contexts in which projectors are good, and that context is in dark spaces. I'm not. Well, OBS is maxed on desktop, but I have the input very low. Like the pretzel input is insanely low. But maybe you're right. Maybe I should just turn that down so other audio isn't too loud. Is that my problem? Has it been my problem all along? It's confusing because there's like 4 things I need to balance, and what I'm hearing is not the same as what you're hearing. Because I can do this and you would hear no music, but I still get the music. But I also have my mic at a certain level and the Windows audio at a certain level. It's not the coolest. Okay, I'm moving along. So yeah, projectors in dark spaces can be fine. Rear projection can be cool, but man, there's like, projectors are just troubling to deal with because if you want them bright enough to use in a space with ambient light, they start to get real expensive. There's so many considerations you have to take into account if you want it to be the best picture quality and reliable. Like most of the time I would just rather say, let's just use a screen. But I think I need to use a projector for this. And I was thinking this morning I wanted to project from underneath, like a projection table kind of thing. But man, it's a real hassle. It is not trivial to get it exactly right, even with an ultra short throw projector, because of the way the offsets work, it's not cool. So anyway, more on that probably next week. Today, we're going to focus on parametric design, kind of. Not the normal meaning of parametric design. The first parameter we want to change is our desktop wallpaper, obviously. Parameter number 1. We're still living our Norwegian fantasies with the wallpaper selection. Well, that's nice. It's like a little lighthouse. It's like a little rocket ship. I don't like the rest of the picture as much. I'm not crazy about the foreground. Nice. Svolvær, Norway. Is this that far away, the faraway place? I forgot the name of everything already. Okay, so let's talk about parametric design for just a minute, and what it really means, kind of in some contexts, and then also what it can mean. So, like the general definition is about algorithmic thinking, and enables the expression of parameters and rules that together define and encode and clarify the relationship between design intent and design response. So that's a kind of complicated method. It's super, or explanation. It's interesting to look at these things and look at the tools that are used, particularly in like CAD software, computer-aided design software for real engineering and manufacturing and architecture. So in those contexts, like parametric design means, it can mean a lot of things. It can define, it defines the forms based on their parameters. It can define relationships based on parameters. So it can be like, okay, I have a circle here and this is the wall, and I always want the circle to be 2 inches from the wall, even if I move it around, or this circle should always be half the size of this circle, and as I scale them up and down. So it can be about relationships. So the point I want to make is it has a real meaning, and it has a kind of more specific meaning, especially in these like architecture and CAD contexts. Even though it dates back to what Gaudi would be 19th century. So it's not just a computer thing. It predates that. Yeah. So we're going to use it in a slightly different context. We're going to use it in the context, and it's not totally different, but it has sort of different goals. And it is it's somewhere between purely authored. Like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to draw a drawing, right? That is me just purely authored. My intent goes from my head to the page. Versus purely generative, where I set up a bunch of rules for the computer and then the computer just does what it's going to do. Parametric design, in my mind, is somewhere that's kind of in the middle, where it's like, okay, I'm going to build these rules and build these constraints and build these relationships as a foundation to determine this kind of design system. And then I'm going to play with the parameters until I get what I want. And so it's very good for tweaking. It's also very good for variation in the context I'm talking about. So let's just start with, well, a couple things. How about one thing? Let's look at our creatures we made yesterday and talk about how we might approach those creatures parametrically. We just want a web page. So obviously, you just saw me. I just drew these creatures. You want money, but that's not going to happen. Wait, you want money from me? Where do you want the money? So I just drew these creatures, right? I just played with them. I just played around, did drawings, made weird creatures for an hour and a half or so. But in my process of doing it, there were lots of parameters that I entered into Illustrator. If I wanted an ellipse of a certain size, I could say, well, I want an ellipse that is this wide and this tall, right? And I could group things together to make a group so that I could grab one part of it and move it around. And I could change this overall scale of this and it would change everything within it. So we're using some parameters in our process here. You also saw me do manual calculations for things that were also, you could imagine a computer doing for me, where it was like, okay, I want this to go around 4 times, or I want this to go around 5 times, or I want this to be copied 5 times. Those are all things that I made rigid decisions at the time of like, okay, we're going to do this 5 times or 8 times or 6 times or whatever. But you could imagine a scenario where it wasn't that way. And it was, I made this creature, but I had a special slider or something where I could just instantly put in a number and I would end up with the thing that I wanted. And that would be kind of the parametric version of this. So this creature, for example, with this 5-pointed star, you could imagine us building a system, and I think we will, where we could make this creature and I could very easily change one number from 5 to 6 and the whole creature would be exactly the same as presented, colors, eyeball, everything, except suddenly there would be a 6th point on the star. As an example, it could be that this creature has an eyeball slider that says how many eyeballs do we want. We could have parametric color tools and on and on and on. Like there's kind of no limit to this way of thinking. It's just, it is a way of thinking about design and creation. So even though I spent time drawing these and I made 16 of them, with some more work and maybe a substantial amount of work to get all these variations, I could build a system that not only could draw these 16 variations, but could draw whatever, 16 million, 16 billion combinations, depending on how many parameters there were. So in thinking about a way to let a visitor show up and create something, we definitely saw, we saw that Universal Everything project where you came in and it was purely authored, like you as the visitor would draw on the screen and then they procedurally animated it. But it was your creation and then that got animated. Or at the other end of the spectrum was that other project we looked at, Communion, where it was just a wall of generative creatures and the visitors didn't really have any agency over that. They just came in and saw them. This is something that's kind of in between, where no, you're not just sitting down and drawing something on a piece of paper, but you're also just not watching it happen. You're kind of working with the software to create something that you like. And I should have opened with this. You see this all the time in video games. Like video game character creators are an excellent example of this. What's a good one? Black Desert Online has a crazy character creator, right? For some reason, that one jumps out in my mind as a super intense one, where you can make, or The Sims. think about the parameters that go into creating your sim. Some of it is about picking components, like I want this hair or that hair. Some of it is truly like slider-based parameters, like what is my body shape? How tall or short am I? How skinny am I? How muscular am I? Some of them are binary, like this gender selection, which is, that's not ideal, but hey. Some of it is age, which they have discrete steps up and down. You could imagine that being a slider, but instead they have discrete steps. So these are all ways to approach parametric design, either as a range of values, as a set of discrete values, as kind of a binary option, as a list of options that you can swap out. Like there's not necessarily rules that says it is or isn't one thing, but I just want to show you that this is an example of how that kind of thing can work. And with a relatively constrained set of parameters, you can make an insane number of characters. The Fallout games, I think, have this pretty well. The Red Dead Online, I think, has a pretty good character creator, where you can just suddenly, the designers of this system spend a substantial amount of time making this possible, having all of these tweakable parameters, but the result is you suddenly have billions of options, which is pretty amazing. Should I can quote you on that? Parameterization. You want something and then you get it in the end. Okay, I'll put that on the box. Is that a direct life is yours quote? So maybe what we'll try to do. So we could look for some of the options we just looked at, right? So there, for example, are a lot of creatures that just have one eye in the middle. So maybe that's a subtype of creature. Of this creature. In fact, this creature and this creature are maybe actually the same creature. It's just that this one has 5 points and this one has only 3 points. And you could imagine more versions of that creature with different numbers of points. They look similar enough where it's like, yeah, I think I could do that. Maybe this creature and this creature are actually the same creature. And what you do is sort of clone a number of objects around the center of the eyeball. In fact, maybe this creature is also that creature. And maybe this creature is also that creature. This creature and this creature kind of look similar in that there's a number of eyeballs duplicated inside of a shape. Maybe this creature is also one of those creatures and is just in a different shape. So I'm starting to look at, this is almost like a biological exercise, the way you would categorize life into, what does it go? Family. Okay, wait, we got to look it up. I can't remember. 2D Spore, almost. Yeah, Spore was an early. It's definitely not the earliest. There are creature generators that predate Spore for sure. Phylum, genus, species. I just like what's the taxonomic rank? Okay, domain. I forgot about domain. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So we're almost doing this thing. I used to know this because I thought there was there was like a mnemonic device to remember the orders, the order of this from like 7th grade biology. Anyway, that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. Like I'm saying, like, okay, maybe there's a family of single eyeballed creatures. In fact, and maybe one step above that is a family of creatures with eyeballs inside of a shape. And maybe a step above that is creatures whose eyeballs are cloned around a shape. And maybe there's also this branch that is like arrangements of eyeballs that are connected in some way. Or maybe this one and this one are actually, yeah, it's probably this one and this one. So just on this page, we can look and start to think of like, okay, well, what are some other things we could do? What are some other sliders we could do? What are the things we could swap out? Like, what can we add to this kit of parts to make our little creatures? And I don't know the answer immediately, just in terms of there's a kind of an infinite possibility, and it's up to me to set the rules. And that's kind of, that's part of parameterization. Is somebody's got to make the rules for what those parameters mean. You can't just throw numbers in the computer and have it output creatures. You have to build a system that does that. And I would actually be really interested to find if there's some sort of standard for that. You know, like some taxonomic standard. I know of like computational taxonomies for like language and natural language, I think, but I don't know about making weird creatures. But that might be helpful to me rather than just trying to start from scratch. Anyway, let's just get some. Oh, and actually one thing I should add is that parameterization is also a great foundation for kinds of evolutionary programming. Because once I have these creatures defined as a bunch of numbers, I have a genome for these creatures, kind of. I think that's the right word to use. And I could say, well, if this creature with 5 points and this creature with 3 points had a baby, some of the babies would have 3 points and some of the babies would have 5 points. Maybe several of the babies have 4 points because it's in the middle, and maybe there's a mutant baby that has 9 points, or a baby 8 points that adds the 2. You know, there's no. I'm the one who would set those evolutionary rules. We don't have to be constrained by the real world. So let's just start setting up a P5 sketch. And there is the P5 web editor, but I have personally found that I, at least at this moment, prefer Glitch for it. Creature creator? I don't know. There's probably a million of these. I do need to spend more time looking into what existing work is out there, both to be inspired by it, but also to try to avoid duplicating it where possible. So we can get rid of a lot of stuff that we don't really care about. Actually, we do want the style sheet. And I don't like scripts in the head. I like scripts at the end of the body. And I don't want this button. I don't know what that defer tag is. I should probably know that, huh? Okay, so, and then in here, we probably want to say like margin 0, body 0. So this is boring setup. Okay, so let's start with our basic P5 stuff. And this is the time that I definitely say, if you were interested in P5, go watch Dan Schiffman videos, because actually, if you're not interested in P5, go watch Dan Schiffman videos, because the coding train videos are amazing and ridiculous. So what do we want to do? Let's create a canvas that's whatever. Nice power of 2, and let's make the background. Actually, a few things I want to do. I want to be sure I prefer to work in degrees, usually, and I prefer to work in hue, saturation, brightness, a range of 0 to 1. So those are just kind of my preferences. I could work in radians, but that means I can say background 1 would be white, and background 0, that's what this color mode will be black. So let's say like almost white, just so we can kind of see a gray area. Wait, you hate glitch? You work in bachelor degrees? That's your preferred way? Yeah. I like radians. Radians are fine with me. What if you don't know the distinction? With degrees, we just arbitrarily said there's 360 degrees in a circle. There's no real reason for that, except for ancient civilizations decided that was a good idea. Maybe it was Babylonians. Oh yeah, the P5 editor. Yes, right. I'm not crazy about it. Is it Babylonians? Anyway, some ancient civilization decided there's 360 degrees in a circle, and they had their reasons for it, but they're kind of arbitrary reasons, like 24 hours in a day, 60 seconds in a minute. And that's fine. And I think in degrees, because degrees is what I grew up with and what most people think about. With radians, it makes a little more sense because you're thinking in terms of a radius of 2 pi. And like, at least 2 pi is a little weird, but it's pi at least has something to do with circles. It's not just totally made up. You'll remember that pi is the ratio of a circle's diameter to its circumference. So if I have a diameter of 1 meter, then the circumference is going to be 3.14, et cetera, meters. I'm not actually sure. There's probably a reason that it is 2 radians to go around. I don't know the answer to that. Anyway, either you're thinking in terms of 2 pi, in terms of 2 pi, like 6.28 basically to go all the way around, or you're thinking in terms of degrees. And I'm sure there's some people that think in radians, and they can be like, oh yeah, pi, 180 degrees, half pi, 90 degrees, quarter pi, 45 degrees. Like they that translation is instant, and the dominant thought process is in radians, but that's just not me. I wonder why it complains about these things. You would think it would be smart enough to know. Is it just the order? Is that my problem? I don't know actually, like, how does it, if it has any context outside of the file. That'd be kind of annoying if it didn't. Haven't we done P5 stuff? Did we see these errors all over the place? I don't remember us having all these errors in other projects. Like in the party. Maybe we just did this inside. We did it inside the HTML file, so we didn't have to worry about it. Well. Now it's not mad. Now it is mad. Who knows? Anyway, let's just keep going. So no, it's gonna complain at me. That's gonna annoy me. I can't do it. We can't do it. We're just gonna go here. Maybe this annoys me more. Can't actually tell. But whatever. We'll just stay in this one file and we'll get rid of this. This will scroll away soon enough. So what do you want, little doggy? The inv editor. Oh, that's nice. So where do we want to start? Let's start with this friend. And let's think about ways to do this. So the first thing we want is a circle, right? So we know how to draw an ellipse. And in fact, let's say I want a circle in the middle of the screen. I have two options for that. Either I explicitly draw that circle in the middle of the screen, or I need to move to the middle of the screen and draw it. And because we want all of our relationships, we want, all parts of this creature to be related to some origin, some point in space. I want that origin actually to be in the middle of the screen. But by default, the origin is in either this corner or this corner, depending on what you're doing. But usually in computer graphics, like x0, y0 is up here or down here. I think in P5, if we, for example, draw an ellipse at 0, 0, that is 256 by 256, it's going to appear up here. So we could change this number to draw it, but I don't want to do that. I want to like translate, which means kind of pick up my pencil and move it over and have a new center of the world. So I want to go to width divided by 2 and height divided by 2, which would be the middle. And so now everything we talk about is going to be relative to the center of our piece of paper, of our canvas. So what do we need to do here? So one problem we have is this is a very nice ellipse, but this is not an ellipse. It's a kind of a wavy form. So we did learn the super formula, if you will recall, where we know how to draw things like this. So that would be one option, is we could play with our parameters to try to come up with a creature that looked like this. So this is, I can't quite tell what these numbers want to be. I guess this is M, N, 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 M, N, N. Yes, there's 4 parameters here. So we already can see, like, well, this guy's not too, this isn't too far from our little creature, right? This one is kind of isn't too far, but it's a little weird. It's like a little lopsided. This guy also has 5 points. So we could do this. We could come up with some other kinds of equations to be able to draw these things. But I feel like, I kind of feel like this formula is going to do what we want. I sort of feel like we should just do it. And because the super formula is cool, because it's super formula. So in order to do that, we need to stop thinking about a circle, and we need to think about what it means to draw a circle. And if you think of a circle as just an infinite number of points, draw, we have to think about, like, how do you want to draw something like that? Like, how would you do it? Like, in real life, I might use a compass, or I might have a pencil on a piece of string that I spun around. I think the way to do it is to, in fact, we kind of need this. If you look in here and see what we actually need and what we actually get, and we get a radius, and we need an angle. Is that phi? What symbol is this? Yes, that's phi. So radius and angle, well, over here we're drawing an XY, so that's not very useful. So we want to instead draw in using polar coordinates. So these are called Cartesian coordinates. We already talked about all this stuff before, but just as a reminder, Cartesian coordinates are those XY coordinates that you hear all the time. And since we translated to 0, our layout kind of looks like this. We can go plus, minus, we can go up and down. We also talked about this a little bit with complex numbers, but that's a whole other thing. But this isn't good for drawing circles. This is like, it's good for drawing like straight lines and angles, but for drawing circles, it seems pretty bad. So for drawing circles, instead, we want to think about polar coordinates. And polar coordinates also have 2 numbers, but instead of x, y, it's radius, how long it is, and then an angle, how to turn it. And I went straight up. Actually, I think polar coordinates typically start here. Yeah, straight to the side and move from there. I don't know if it's a crime, if it's a math crime. My lack of space after commas. Well, I don't typically do things like that because when you save, it's kind of... So I don't worry about stuff like that typically because in Visual Studio Code, after I type anything, I immediately save, and I have format on save turned on. So I have gotten a little lazy and let the auto formatter do that. If I was going to hand format the code always, I would certainly want spaces after the commas. So this ellipse is just great, but it's drawn in a way that we can't mess with it, and we want to be able to mess with it. So what I would like to do is just say for a for loop, let I equals 0, I is less than 360 because we're working in degrees, I plus plus. So this is just a for loop that's going to iterate from 0 to 360 degrees, right? And if we think of this as our angle, looking here, phi, that's our angle, then we also need our radius. And we can just make up whatever we want. Let radius equals, we said the radius here, this is the diameter of the radius. So the radius is 128. And let's do fill 0.5 for this. So we want this circle to be white. And this circle, when we draw it, will not be white. In fact, it's going to be dots to start with. So this might be really weird, but we'll see. Okay, so we have angle now, and we have radius now, which is great. There are definitely shortcuts that I want to work here that do not work here. So, well, let's just draw a circle to start with. Like, so I have a radius and I have an angle. So I have polar coordinates, but you can't draw with polar coordinates easily. So you need to switch back to Cartesian coordinates. So we will need an x and we will need a y. So to get x, well, think about that. X moves this way, right? So if we're thinking about a circle and moving this way, y moves this way. It's a little slight logical leap, but a thing that moves this way is cosine, and a thing that moves this way is sine. You know, if you think of a sine wave going up and down, it's like a nice rounded circular thing going up and down, and a cosine wave does the same thing vertically. So if we get the cosine of our angle, which in this case is I, and we get the sine of our angle, which in this case is I, we will have an x and y coordinate, almost. We need to multiply that times our radius, right? So now we've created Cartesian coordinates, and I somehow have an exciting error because I forgot my equal sign. So now I could say, well, we could just draw a tiny ellipse at each of these. Let's draw an ellipse at x, an ellipse at y, and make it 4 or something. Oh no, I have too many. I have too many tiny, tiny circles. Make it bigger. So you can see all my tiny circles, they're ridiculous because they're all stacked on top of each other. But for each degree, I go around this circle, I'm drawing a little circle there. So I don't even need this circle anymore. We're over it. We're done with that circle. Now I'm drawing a circle manually point by point. And in fact, let's use point, which is, I think, processing knows how to do. And that's a very tiny point, so we can do stroke width 4. I think I'm starting to speak quickly again. Life is yours. You have to let me know if I start to speak too quickly. Slow down. Somehow my stroke width made me not draw anymore. Is it because they're too close? They're like right on top of each other or something? Oh, or well, that's very peculiar. Is it stroke width or stroke weight? What have I done? Coming this up for a minute. Well, that's not a function. What is wrong with stroke width? It is weight. It's stroke weight. It's stroke weight the whole time. I will always forget. I will do this constantly. I will forget constantly what I'm supposed to be saying in P5. And it makes it worse that I kind of barely remember how to do things in processing, and P5 has some differences. It in processing has some differences. So now I've done a silly thing where I just like stipple little polka dots all the way around here and I get a circle. So that is feeling pretty good, I think, right? Like we feel pretty pleased with this. We have a number of circles that we go around. We don't have to draw all 360. We could say plus equal, only draw every 10th circle, for example, and then we'd have less density there. We could also, if we really wanted to, draw 720. We could make it even denser if we wanted to. And have even more circles. But let's just stick for the moment with 1 dot per degree, because that feels pretty reasonable. So, except now it's not drawing again. What did I do? We should just keep the... How about we keep the console open so we know what's going on? Okay, that's a sad... maybe it tried to save for a second while I was in the process of writing the code, and we ended up with an infinite loop. That seems very possible. Okay, now we're okay. So we've got a circle. So let's look back at the super formula. There's simpler ways we could do this, but I'm kind of into the super formula. So I sort of think we should just do it. Should we just do it? Let's just do it. Basically, our whole plan around here, the whole function of what the super formula will do for us is it's going to modulate that radius. So as we go around the circle, right now our radius is fixed at 100. So we have 100 pixels from our center point to the edge of the circle, and that's true all the way around, just like you're using a compass. But there's no reason we have to do that. We could make it wobbly, we could make it warbly, we could do all kinds of things with it and not have to do that. And the super formula is a way to do it. So what we're trying to get is a new radius for every one of these points. So let's call this base radius, because this is going to be sort of all things being equal, without doing anything weird. This is our base radius, just to kind of like scale things up, sort of. So looking at this, what do we need to do? We've got quite a few operations, but they're not crazy complicated. But we also have a lot of parameters. So we can see by choosing different values for the parameters A, B, M1, M2, N1, N2, and N3, different shapes can be generated. So this, basically we need variables for this list of parameters. So let's do that. And let's just do it out here. So I think I can do like let A, B, M1, M2, N1, N2, N3. And let's just say they're all equal to... I don't think I want to do that, actually. I think we want these all to be equal to 1 and those to be equal to 0. Maybe? Because I think down here, if we look, actually yeah, no, this says 2. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, well, let's say we want a circle. This was M, both of our M's. A, they don't give you, so A and B will leave 1. And this is making each of our, to get a circle, basically, we need 2 in all of those. So for now, let's do this. We'll keep A and B separate. And we'll keep our N's and M's separate. And we'll set all these equal to 2, and this is equal to 2, and these will leave 1, because these kind of do something different in the equation. Okay. So that gives us, and 100%, I learned all this from Dan Schiffman and a few other places, Paul Bork, various other places. So like, there's coding train videos about this very thing that you could watch, and Dan Schiffman would do a better job explaining it. I'm definitely not trying to pretend like I invented this, but it's going to be the foundation of what we're going to do today, so I think that will be useful. So we want to do this thing. And also, stealing from Dan Schiffman, he kind of broke it into individual terms, where it's kind of like term 1, term 2, term 3. I don't know if term's exactly the right word to use there, but okay. So this is, I'm just doing this is my Dan Schiffman emulation. So we had term 1. I really don't like variable names that end in 1, but we're already here. Is we want to take the cosine of our M1 times our phi, which is our angle, which is I. In fact, why don't we just call this angle? Might make things a little more clear. So we want to do M1 times the angle divided by 4. And remember, we did all this in Unity. If you watch the stream where we did the super shapes in Unity. So this is that exact same code. It's just a little easier because we're not trying to do it in that node-based environment. So cosine of M1 times angle divided by 4. That's a divided by 4. And then all of this divided by A, right? And then we want the absolute value of this. Absolute value is these bars. And then we want to raise that to the n2 power. So pow into, so m1 times angle divided by 4, cosine of that divided by a raised to the n2 power. And then term 2 is almost the same. In term 2, we want m2 times the angle divided by 4. We want the sine of that instead of the cosine. Sine goes up and down, cosine goes left and right. I think that's reasonable to say. B, and that goes to the n3 power. Okay, and then the last thing is the radius itself. So let's say this is our new radius that we're getting from the super formula. So this will be let radius equal, it's going to be another pow, but it's just term 1 plus term 2, and it's going to go to the power of -1 minus n1. That droning voice is back. It's so drony. Okay, so I clearly seem to have an error. If I had to guess, it's probably because I don't have enough parentheses. What's the matter with you? Why don't you like... power of 1 over n1? Why would it not like... Oh, because I have too many parentheses. I was wrong. I thought I had too few. I had too many. Okay. Somehow... So I is not defined. That's fine. It's because we just renamed it to angle and forgot to do it here. It's not angel. It's angle. So this is our dot. We haven't actually applied this radius yet. So now it's base radius, and let's also apply our super formula radius. And I have a problem somewhere. What? Where's the... Get out of here. Okay, what's wrong? Demise devotion events. Okay. So I have some silly error, very clearly. What is my silly error? Let's log the radius. Seems like it's ending up 0. It's ending up not a number, so we just have some broken math here. So let's go through our equation yet again. Oh, in 1. Oh, okay. Well, this is interesting. I didn't actually do this right. Can I do this? Like, can I declare like this? Yeah, no. Well, because what I want to do is simultaneously declare all these. But what I'm trying to do is not correct. So some of those just can't be 0. So let's just be verbose. So we can do this at least. I guess we can avoid some lets if we really want to. But I kind of don't like it. I feel like if we're going to declare them all, we're just going to declare them all. Right, because they need values. That's just me being silly. It's just me being wrong. Okay, and actually we said we do want these to be 2 to start with, I think. Okay, so now we are back to something boring because with those particular parameters, we just are drawing a circle. But now we should be able to put in some different parameters. So here we have 3, 4.5, 10, 10. So we said M1's going to be equal to M2. So 3, 4.5, 10, 10. So that kind of looks like that. So that's good. So let's go ahead and let's actually change this to be a solid shape. Instead of drawing points, we just tell processing like, yeah, we're gonna make a line, just follow along on the line. And then we really can probably do less resolution. I don't know, every third point or something like that, and it's probably still fine. You see it gets a little jaggy at the end, but eventually we're gonna be drawing polygons. So we're gonna deal with some jaggies, probably. Okay, so this is great. We can now enter these parameters. This is our parametric creature formula. So 5277 will give us something not totally unlike our little friend. 5, 7. Except it's very large, so we could make our base radius smaller. Yeah, we could also do something to like constrain, give it a max radius or something like that, and we get that thing. And it is a little jaggy, so let's do like a point every 2. Okay, so that is we have some parameters we're drawing, we just can't easily tweak them. So let's do that. I need to take a short break, but when I come back, we will like make some sliders to make this a little more tweakable. So I will return shortly. Excuse me, please. Hi, hello, it's me. Wait, I just got an important message. Okay, so we did this. We made this thing. So now we just want some sliders, probably, right? Because parametric design and sliders just go hand in hand. It's peas and carrots. So let's do that, I guess. It's gonna be really verbose, but oh well. So we won't, A and B, we won't do a slider probably because those do really crazy things. M, we've, for the moment, are saying that M is, there's just M. We're not really doing M1 and M2. Out of curiosity, yeah, things go a little wild. I think we kind of want to keep our M's the same. So let's just say M equals 5. And in fact, that's a concern here with it. Like this formula in particular gets pretty wild based on how you change the parameters. So having reasonable constraints. Oh no, it's the singing guy. Singing guy. Okay. Is going to be pretty key if we choose to use this formula. There's other ways to make warbly shapes. It's just that the super formula is super. So we should use it. So we want, well, let's just start with M. Let's have an M slider. And M slider, all very similar stuff to what we did last week in Unity. Create slider. We need the P5 DOM add-on. Wait. I thought we needed the P5 DOM add-on. Apparently you don't need that anymore. Yeah, okay, we want a slider that goes between 0 and 12, and it starts at 6. And then now, down here when it's time to draw something, in fact, maybe we just want like a little region where we set our parameters based on the slider. Just so, I mean, we could do that inline, but let's just say M equals M slider dot value, like that. Is that right? Okay, so we can now parametrically. Funny how sometimes our points don't end up at the end, which I guess makes sense. It really is probably better to just draw every one of them, because they get pointy either way. So this is our first little parametric friend. So we've got a 3-sided guy. We've got a 5-sided guy. Now our contours are not the same, and I suspect that is related to our n 1, 2, 3 values. So let's quickly add sliders for those. Can you do multi-line? N? I guess you can. No, no. Well, I did a poor job. These numbers, I think, get wild real fast. But let's just see. Let's just see what happens. Okay, so we have our 3 sliders. 4 sliders. So let's do our thing here. Can you say the interval that these step? Because what if I don't want them to be... What if I want them to be integer? The step, I can. So I can say, if I don't ever want to have kind of fractional... Maybe it defaults to that. I don't know. Okay, and then... N1, N2, N3. Well, hey, look at that. And N1, N2, N3. Wrong. Great. Spelling is a thing that people do. Okay, so we have our in parameter, which is the number of stars. So if we have a 5, that looks good. This is gonna, this looks like it, yeah, like 0. Seems like 0 is bad and that we don't want to ever go to 0. So let's change these ranges so that they never go as lower than 1. So that period, what you know, like the outward period seems to be modulated by this. Weirdly, it almost feels like it's inverse. Weird. Weird. These numbers are weird. Although look at this little guy. So here's the danger of this particular formula, I feel like. It's just so, it's kind of wild. So you can find yourself with some asymmetry, it would seem. I mean, it's not really asymmetrical, I guess. There's still radial symmetry. I mean, it's almost like you want these numbers, I guess that's why you want these numbers to be equal. At least the second two. Like it seems like N2 and N3 want to be equal, or you start to get tilty. So we could choose to do that. We could choose just to say that those numbers are that. So, but for the thing we're trying to do here, which at the moment is just create a guy that looks like that. Like we kind of got a guy that looks like that. Kind of. It's a little sharper. Which seems to be lower values for these two. So that is pretty dang close, I would say. That. So if we wanted to just start, you know, if we wanted to just start actually making this character, we could say that we probably want the stroke to be 4. Oh no, what were those numbers? Oh no, what a disaster. Those numbers are 5, and then these were like 1, 2, 1, 2. Funny that this lower. Five, 2, 2, 5, 5, 3, 3. 5, 2, 3, 3, maybe. That still not quite right. A little more roundy on top. There are certainly other ways we could get a star-shaped friend with a maybe less volatile formula. Like there's, because really all we would do is like, you know, do a sine wave as we went around here on the radius to get that distance. So, but let's just stick with this for now because it's what we have. It's just, our dude's a little too pointy. In my humble opinion. We got a pointy dude. And that's like not pointy enough. So it's a real struggle out here to have your dude have the proper amount of pointiness. Maybe these actually should be a smaller step. If we're really struggling between not pointy enough and too pointy, it's a real crisis. Okay, I'm going to ignore that crisis for the moment. And let's say, so one thing we may want to start to do though is say like, well, what if I want more dudes? Like the notion of this thing that we just did Maybe we want to break that into a function called like draw body. Because now if we wanted to, potentially we could like translate around and just draw another body. So it could be draw body XY, for example. And if we translated, so instead of this trick, we could put this in translate is definitely not how you spell that. And then we could do this. Have another little friend. We could also make this base radius. We could just default these to 0, 0, I guess. And then if I wanted this guy to be smaller, I could do that, and I could have, and then I can do these parameters, and we're like parametrically controlling all of our friends simultaneously. We could have them all over the place. So, yeah, man, the super formula. I think we want another thing also that is not as volatile as the super formula. Because it feels like it would be, if you just gave somebody like, yep, go to town, just make some stuff, it'd be a little easy to make things that were insane. Which, you know, maybe isn't the worst thing, but for now, let's think, we'll just use it for now, and we'll have to consider how much control to give the user of this thing. So now we probably want an eyeball, and I feel pretty confident that eyeballs are like first-class citizens. In fact, it might be the job of the body to decide where it wants its eye. So let's start with eyeballs just being, there's an ellipse. With a certain radius. And in fact, that radius, maybe we want to say is we want the eyeball to be half of the base radius, and then this one wouldn't be so big. Okay. Maybe bigger than that. Like 75% of our friend should be eyeball. Okay. And we want so this we would have like, you know, a certain stroke and a certain fill. But now we want fill, we would want for the pupil, we weren't doing a stroke. And the fill for now can just be back. And we'll draw another ellipse and make that ellipse half the radius. Maybe a third of the radius. And those relationships, you know, I'm hard coding that now, but those could be other parameters, like how big or small an eyeball is inside of something could certainly be another parameter. Okay, so we're like starting to sort of approach our friend. kind of cool if the eye changed size, like the pupil dilated. We could also have different pupil shapes. We could have cat eyes or goat eyes or weird spider eyes or whatever. Like these are all things that will potentially go in our kit of parts, assuming this is the direction we go, and kind of seems like it's the direction we're going to go. So then the thing that's missing is color. And creating color palettes is a kind of complicated thing. There's a technique I like to use where you use intervals. You pick a hue and then kind of pick some intervals over maybe like 180 degrees. And then you can be like sort of confident that you're going to get a palette that makes sense. So in this case, we have the body stroke, the body color, the eye stroke, the eye color, and the pupil color. So let's just start carving that out. So let body stroke color, let body color, let eye stroke color, let eye color, let pupil color. And so let's just start with our body stroke color. Which would be stroke, body stroke. Come on. Stroke color. I messed it up, I know. And body color. Spoiled by Visual Studio Code, just filling those things in for me. And so let's just do it up here, that let body color equal, we're set up to use hue, saturation, brightness. So, well, let's start with body stroke color. And let's say base hue. So we could have a base hue that's equal to, say, 30. And then we'll say the body stroke color is base hue with 0.5 saturation and 0.5 value. And let's say that body color is the same thing, but we're going to offset by 30 from base hue. Maybe that's too much. What have I done? 167. Okay, your base hue plus 30. Argument is not valid. We have a body color, and it's a color. We have a body stroke color, and it's a color. So what are you mad about? Color was expecting at least one argument. What? Received 0 arguments. Where did I... Why does color... Where did I use color that it thinks it got 0 arguments? Excuse me? Is it create color? What do you do in P5? Color. Color. Equals color. What did I do wrong? This is what's mad, right? Fill is going to be the body color. Yeah, color one argument. Something's just wrong with having default color. Oh, of course. Of course, of course. Duh. Okay. Well, I thought that was the problem. What's actually the problem? That was a problem. It's maybe not the problem. So body color inside. Oh, well, we can't, of course. We've got to do this before. I'm going to do this inside setup anyway. Falling apart over here. Okay, great. So what did we say we wanted? We wanted to try base hue 0.5, 0.5. That was just bad. That was just bad. I was just doing a bad job there. And then this will be base hue plus whatever we say, 15 degrees by 0.5, 0.5. And we want that body stroke color. Okay. So that is a start. To start. And then say now we want our additional colors. So and then maybe this one we want a more substantial. I mean, these are all just offsets, so we can kind of put whatever we want. Up to 3. Oh, wait, no, I forgot. These are normalized 0, 1. Oops. This needs to be like 0.2. And this needs to be like 0.2. No, 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 no. And you also. Okay, well, let's do 0.2s to start with, and it'll be great. So we need, that's our eye stroke color and our eye color. So let's go do those. And we would do that inside our, this is our eye. Eye color. Seems like something's broken. Eye stroke color. Oh, I just said the same numbers. And then one more, pupil color. And then we can change the base hue. We probably need like mod. Because otherwise I think it's gonna max out. Yeah. Funny. But the stroke would still be different. Yeah, we'd want to like add all of these. This would all need to be mod 1. Oh, come on. We could certainly write a method for this that made more sense. Oh, we'll just do it all inline now and look like crazy people. We could just do 2, 4, 6, 8. Which actually doesn't make a ton of sense to me because this would be 0.9 and you think that would be, I guess it's purple. I guess that's right. But really we want maybe like to go from both ends, so we're kind of alternating. So like subtract these two. Is that crazy? Well, yes, because it's we end up with the exact same numbers. Okay, I'll be the first to admit our color selection algorithm needs some work. How's our eye color and our body color the same? Body color is minus 0.2 and eye color is minus 0.4. So that doesn't make sense to me that those would be the same ever, unless I'm not actually using eye color down there. It's possible. No, fill is eye color. Just bad at programming today, I guess. Maybe that's true every day. Okay, well, we very clearly need to come up with some better better approach here. I would have thought that our base hue would be, yeah, I guess that's right. Because we sort of want the strokes at one end kind of warmer. Yeah, maybe that's a little better. But then even if we offset, we'll get something where there's at least some contrast. The eye color and body color, still too similar, I think. Okay. Anyway, we've got this. Let's get our purple background while we're at it. Just have the same color. So HSV, HSB. Oh no, but it's not shown normalized 0.1. Oh no. Well, this is like 0.8, 0.32, and then this is 214 divided by 360. Good grief. Okay. This strange little green blobs. So we could make a base hue slider if we wanted, just for kicks. A little slower. And it needs to go from 0 to 1, and default value is 0.5, and it's going to step by 0.01. That's the last one. And then we probably want like a base hue, and base hue will be equal to the base hue slider. I'm not crazy about the way this is organized, but okay. So now we can like do some kind of color offset-y thing. Maybe these should not be. Maybe these should be floating point. Especially N1. I feel like N1 wants to be 0.1. Yeah, I think that's better. And then would this kind of determine the roundness of the top? Yeah, that feels a little more correct to me. I'm sure there's much better algorithms for color palette selection that we would definitely want to look into. In fact, we maybe even like design fixed color palettes and then have ways to select from them, like color gradients, and then you would sample from different points on those gradients, maybe something like that. Not entirely sure. Okay, what do we want to do now? We didn't do the pupil color. Okay, we did the pupil color. Good for us. We don't really need the second friend. I feel like the second friend is slightly distracting. And then we can make this guy a little bigger. Okay. Right. The square friend is kind of funny. Rectangular friend. Big ol' eyeball. So rounded though. I kind of like how the edge radius is. I mean, it's sort of cool to have the weird little kind of want to be there. No, wrong. I don't want to be there. Like a little alien guitar pick. What are your secrets, alien guitar pick? Yeah, really, we kind of want just a palette definition. I don't know that will really get what we want just from the swatches. One thing though about our stroke weight, I feel like it wants to be something like base radius, like 1/10 of the radius or something. Not divided by 2, divided by 10, something like that. Or 15th of the base radius, or a 12.5th, like 1/8 of a base radius. Still feels big. If I would expose the parameters, I just wouldn't have to tweak these over and over again, but here we are. So we got our little friend, or we at least have the ability to make something approximating our little friend. I don't know. I don't have a great handle on how these parameters work. Maybe better if those were, you can make a thing where you like linked two parameters together or whatever. Okay, so what did we say here for like eye body ratio? We said 0.8. So we could just make a new slider for the eye body ratio. What are you mad about? Eye body ratio slider, is that what you're called? Well, we gotta create you. And this can be something like 0.1 to 0.5 to defaults to 0.25. The step is 0.01. And then the eye-body ratio is what we would put in here. It's actually pretty big. Wait, is the ellipse take a radius or does it take a diameter? It takes a width and height. Okay, well, that's not really the radius. The radius would be divided by 2. Diameter. Times eye-body ratio. Whoop. Wow. Okay. So that gets tunable. Setting the stroke weight only in one place is a little weird, but ignore that for now. Oh, it feels like that could be even bigger, but what am I gonna do? I'm not very happy with the colors. I'm kind of tempted to just hard code our colors for the moment. Or have a randomize button. Okay, so let's make this eyeball look at the mouse, because why not? Now this might be weird because we're translated. I don't know exactly. I don't know if you can do what I want to do. Because we'll have to essentially translate the mouse coordinates as well. Excuse me. Like if I just wanted to start drawing you want to ignore. We're never going to find this in DuckDuckGo. I mean, I essentially want like the world position of something. Screen X and screen Y after. And I want these to look at, I just need to kind of like the world position of my pretty weird. Pretty weird, pretty weird, pretty weird. Yeah, I guess you would just keep a sense of where the what that offset was, and then just always apply it to the mouse coordinates. I don't love that. That means I have to know it all the way down here. I don't really want to. You know? I kind of don't want to know that. Because I sort of want the eye to be body relative. Always. Which is why I'm doing this sort of in as part of my translate. Let's just do this. I don't know if I can do this. Okay, so we want to say, like, we'll just hard code it for now. This is where we want our eyeball to look. So in fact, kind of the first thing we'd want to do is just draw something at the look position. So no, we want just an ellipse probably at and this would be kind of like if look position is not equal to null, or really if not undefined. Okay, so we've drawn this over here because this is 200 and 200. It's like relative to the mouse S and mouse Y. So I could do mouse X and mouse Y here, which is kind of what I want, but it's going to be offset by what my initial translate was, which is a little annoying. So one option is just to reapply that offset. It's kind of lame, like inside this, that it doesn't like, I mean, I sort of would want that. I sort of would want it to translate mouse X and mouse Y if I told it to translate, but I guess that creates a whole lot of other problems. So we will just account for that when we translate, I guess. So now we know where the mouse is. So we have a look position. So now what we want to do is we want to draw this at the look position, but like not quite at the look position. So let's just start saying like this is our pupil. This is now our pupil. I'm going to drag it all over the place. What we want to do is, well, we really just have to normalize that. Normalize. And then multiply it times some radius that we care about. But norm? But no, it's in P5 vector, I think. So normalize the vector to make it length 0. So yeah, we can call v. So let's just normalize our look position. So that'll be the start. But now we're constrained to a unit circle of 1. So now we need to probably multiply that times diameter? No, can't do that. And that's probably too much, right? Yeah, this is going to be a huge number. Also, mult. I need to multiply it to vector. That's probably actually the problem. Diameter. Because it shouldn't be that huge. Okay, not bad, but our eyeball looks outside of the center. So maybe it really is like whatever the size of the pupil is. Okay, that's not bad. Maybe it's a quarter. We'll get to the edge. Okay, we can look around. The problem is if we're over, it gets a little jumpy. So what we need to do is say, there's a couple of ways we could do it. We could do it based on that distance. Which is all we know it, because that's 0. So that's going to be the magnitude of the vector. So we really only want to multiply it if the length or magnitude. Magnitude, the squared. Yeah, if we don't square it, the magnitude squared. Not really mag. That's what we want. So we kind of only want to do this if the magnitude is greater than this number, I guess. If our magnitude is greater than that, then we need to sort of squish it and make it fit. I've done a poor job. If the look position's magnitude is greater than the diameter minus 4, then normalize. What? Is there really an error here? What have I done? What ridiculous thing have I done? Okay, the look position's magnitude. Oh, it's a function. That's likely the ridiculous thing I've done. Okay, So if we're inside that radius, we don't do anything. It's fine. Just put it where it is. But as soon as we go outside of the diameter, we just normalize and then multiply that. And there's a cost to this because there's a couple of square roots in there, I think. At least one. There's one square root in there at least. Maybe there's 3. 2? But I think that's okay. And if we make the eyeball bigger, it should still function. Ideally, we'd want it like to really figure it out, right? Like we'd really want to know that it was the diameter divided by 3, so it should be the inverse of that. Or whatever that diameter is. But I'm not super worried about figuring that out at this second. I mean, what would it really be? We'd never want to go beyond half of the diameter. Sort of the max pupil distance is equal to half of the diameter minus the pupil diameter, which we're calling diameter divided by 3. I misspelled diameter. It's like I spell it differently every time. It's kind of amazing. So whatever the diameter is minus the pupil diameter, or half of that. I think this is wrong, but it's a start. Yeah, it's wrong. So what is... Because it's the full pupil diameter, which is the whole diameter of the circle minus 3. And then we want to say you can't go any further than 1 minus this. Very wrong. Extremely, just extraordinarily wrong. Okay. My brain does not want to figure this out. So it is half of the diameter. If it was just the half diameter, we'd be drawing way out here. Oh, is the stroke? Oh, we'd have to take into account half of the stroke. Not ideal. So half of the diameter minus but then we have half the stroke to deal with, which is kind of lame. Unless we just decided we could also draw our eye separately, like the eye stroke outside, and then the pupil could go in the underneath it a little bit. Maybe that would look better anyway. I think it wouldn't. So we need to know. I don't know if you can do this. Like, can you get the stroke weight? Stored in some global place. I don't like that. Well, I mean, that seems like it's at it. Maybe that's not in P5. Well, I don't really want to deal with this right now. I mean, we could just do the thing, I guess. I don't need to be too precious about this because this is not ever going to be production code. Like we're not going to do this in P5. We'll port it all to Unity when the time comes. So it should not be too precious about it. But just a little bit precious. Just the right amount of precious is what I'm going for. Okay. So now, so this is, again, like going back to the very beginning, once we have these constraints and these relationships, then I can change this slider, this body ratio, and it will also change the size of the pupil, and it will also change but it maintains the proper stroke. Like, you know, it's kind of the goal here. It's so weird when they get asymmetrical. It starts to look like... What does this remind me of? Is this from Day of the Tentacle? Or some other... Like the aliens from... Yes. We've like accidentally sort of almost started to create one of the aliens from Day of the Tentacle. It's a good alien design. Okay, so we have... It's reminding me of something else too. It's not just that though. Is it Plankton from SpongeBob? Might be Plankton. Okay. Anyway, we have some parameters going. We can make some relatively interesting creatures. We have our eyeballs looking around. So we could decide to modulate one of these by a sign or something. You know what? Our friend wants to just rotate a little bit, right? Oh, but then that really screws up our... Man, that like totally ruins our... We could do a... So what I was going to suggest... Let's do it. We will push the current matrix. I think P5 just calls it push and pop. And then inside here, let's just... Very good. Okay, let's divide by a lot. Okay, just get a little rotation. And we didn't want to screw up our look, so we're actually only doing the rotation when we draw the body, not when we... That's why we do this pop push, so that only stuff that's going on inside it, only translations that are going on inside there are affected by the rotation. Maybe that makes sense. Kind of a way to have hierarchical transforms sort of without causing too much trouble. So I want the ratio to start bigger. I want you to start on 5. And where do we do the eye body ratio? Let's start like 0.4. Kind of like a global overall scale too that we altered. Did my camera get weirdly blown out suddenly when I can't? Why is the camera so blown out? What did I do to cause this? Is it because the sun came out outside? Even though I used the exact same, no, my gain went up inexplicably. Why? What is changing my gain? Why? Why? Oh, Logitech camera, even though you're worth your weight in gold now, you just suck in a lot of ways. Okay, so this was a little blown out. It was blown out in the way that I like that makes my teeth look really white, so we'll call it good. Okay, we've got our little creep here. This creep is definitely reminding me of something color-wise. I don't know what that is. I don't like the colors, but that's okay. I keep resetting and then changing the parameters to try to match our original guy over and over again. Like some Sisyphean? What is the adject form of the word I'm trying to look for? Sisyphean task? First, how do you spell Sisyphus? You spell it like this. Sisyph. This is the word I want. Sisyphean? Sisyphean? How do you say this word? Have I never said this word out loud before?
Sisyphean.
Sisyphean. That sounds way better. It's a Sisyphean task. Obviously. Not a whatever I said. Sisyphean. Sisyphean. Okay, well, we have a friendly little creep here. I kind of want it to bob up and down a little bit. Well, good thing I happen to know that sine waves bob up and down. This is going to be... not X, Y. Oh, yeah. Okay. That was definitely the wrong number. There's a dance in there. Oh, good time. Okay. Let's lower this frequency dramatically. And since it's a sine wave, we get kind of like fancy nice easing for nothing. Okay, so kind of want dude to just sort of pick out if I'm not moving the mouse around. It's funny that mouse XY is still available here on the page, but not off the page. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, but it's a little bit weird that it is available here. I wonder what mouse X is in this context. Like it's just whatever the last value was, I assume. Okay, so, well, we can make a creature. So that's terrific. What do we want to do now? We could continue working on our parameters. We could try to come up with what the parameter, like a couple of parameters that we like to make some of the creatures that we like. I am feeling a little thrown off by like how weird these get though. What did I do here? Pardon me. If I did this as 720 and I did this as 0.5, would that actually work on those super spikies? No, I would get weird. Wait, that's not right. I still want... Oh, wait, that should be right. Why isn't that right? Because I want more points, and I want to go... No, but that's 720 degrees is definitely going to be a full circle. How do I want to do this? Is that all I actually needed to do? Making things complicated. Okay, well... Excuse me, please. Oh, this little chubby guy. This little football head. Kind of like this guy. A trustworthy look. Something about him. Okay, so what? And we got really get that. We can get most of these forms, right? Like the ones that aren't real cloney, there were things cloned around, but even this pentagon, we can probably get a pentagon if we just do the right thing. We'd have to go higher. I mean, we got a pentagon. It's hard because I don't want people to just create total nonsense, but I also want them to have room to create stuff. But I feel like, just like in video games with parametric controllers, people can make insane things. Maybe those get eaten. I need a way to either constrain it so that crazy things don't happen, which is hard because the more constraints there are, the less opportunity you have to make stuff, or like some evolutionary fitness test that will be like, if you're ugly, you don't survive. You get eaten. Survival of the cutest. It's vicious. We could do radial eyeballs. That would actually not be too hard. Instead of drawing a single eye, drawing the multiple eyes inside of these shapes at least. We could choose to have like an eyeball. How would we want to do it? We'd kind of want to say either, because ideally, I guess, you have the number of eyeballs that you have number of points. But that doesn't have to be true. It might look nicer if it's true, but it doesn't have to be true. Some things that will just be like pieces. You want to just have them more. I mean, that's kind of what we were doing last week with our little evolving things. We could modulate instead of using Can I set a slider value? Will P5 let you do that? I mean, that's how we made all of our fancy things last week. I wonder if you can actually set a slider value. P5 element. Oh, it will set it. Okay, but it's a method that you pass a parameter to, right? Okay, so this could be like never enough parentheses. Can that number be negative? Apparently it can. That's a bad one. Like the number, that's not a very good example. The end slider maybe. Maybe times 6 or something. I don't know if going negative is a good idea with these. Once I make a slider and it has a fixed step though, didn't we set that one to be greater resolution? Wow. Is it the negative values that are messing us up? Sine +1 divided by 2 be about 0 to 1 value. Those fractional values get weird, I guess. Great. No, I just round the whole thing, I guess. No, what do we want to do here? We want very good. I mean, that's the beautiful things we did last week. We're all based on that, on just modulating super formula, but that's not, we're no longer parametric really, or like user controlled parametric when we do that, right? Like all these friends, but I can't play them because they'll be loud, right? Turn down the desktop audio. Like, that's not the super formula one. This one is. This is just modulating those super formula values over time. And it's fine, and it's lovely, but it's not really what we're trying to do today. We're trying to make a parametric creator. So okay, back on task, back on parametric land. I kind of want bubbles. I kind of want these bubbles to float by sometimes. How long have we been streaming? 2 hours? Funny that the widths that they choose, I guess these are maybe 200 each, 150 each. So it should actually be like 600, 600. No, it doesn't seem right, does it? you say where to draw a slider? Can you say you want to draw a slider on, like, on top of your sketch? You can indeed. There's going to be a whole heck of a lot of sliders then. Or slider info. I don't know if I like this. 8 and 8 and 8 and 12. That's probably too close. And 8 and 16 and 8 and 20. Very good. We've done very well here today. 16, 32, 48. I don't like that. Don't do it like that. Do it like this. Well, anyway. We just have some cute little sliders here. Okay. Let's do our other sliders. Not the most extendable system. You know what I want to do? Do I really want to do this? Ugh, I almost want to do it. I would like end up writing dat GUI from scratch, but we kind of want to just say like a lot of these things just go in a configuration object. So all this stuff could be like let config equals and then many of these things, not all of these things, but many of these things then go inside here. Nope, that's supposed to be a colon. You're all supposed to be commas. So then now, when we talk about these jerks, we can do it. This will be Razor and Visual Studio. I gotta find all these things. Woof. I have a reason for doing this. I don't know if it's a good reason, but I have a reason for doing it. Okay, we still have a million more places. What's wrong with you? 26. Base hue is not defined. A. Do I have to have values for these? $28. Apparently. Apparently I do. Okay. Almost. What silly thing did we do? Base hue 74. How do we have one slider down here? Which slider is this? 74. You all. Yeah. Okay. That is eye-body ratio. How do we not... Who knows what I'm doing? So the idea there was just now we have like a config, like an object that represents one of our little buddies. So in theory, if we wanted to, it'd be a little easier to just load a preset. Like I could just say maybe config is not defined. Why is config not defined? I thought I could just type config and get it though. Why is config not defined? Oh, I'm probably in the wrong place here. Probably in some weird, like, probably in here. Yeah, okay. So then we have a value for config. It doesn't show me the whole thing, which is not terribly useful. Well, that's kind of lame. And I can't click any buttons to see all of it. Okay. But that works. Well, but I just want to like, okay, so I need to like JSON stringify config. But it doesn't give me, okay, we're going to get this. Console.log JSON stringify config. What are all this other, oh, we put colors in there, so we have lots of nonsense in them. Well, that's just kind of annoying. We wouldn't really want to do that. We'd want to maybe store the hue, saturation, and values separately inside of kind of our own color object. Okay, well, we're starting to get into robustifying this in a way that doesn't need to happen, because this is just like purely a little test fun experiment thing. So I need to abandon my like application development thinking here, because it doesn't need to happen. So in fact, you'd kind of say like, we don't want this stuff in here. The colors are not relevant to the config, because colors are made based on the base hue. So you really want to, after I just went through the trouble of moving them out, you really want that didn't work the way I thought it would. I have all these lines. I hit end. Okay. So yeah, so the idea of this was flawed. Can I search and replace in here easily? That's almost what I wanted to do. So if I pick this thing, grab this whole thing, Command D, Command D, will it get rid of, yeah. Not quite as good as, not what I wanted though. I want this, Command D. It doesn't work quite as nicely as VS Code, but I could have just done it the slow way already, but that's the danger. It's the danger of the long shortcut. Okay. So now hue is in here. So now if we do this, it's a somewhat more reasonable thing. There's still something weird in here. It's like N1. Oh, that's just the line number. I see. Okay. Yeah, so then we have like a reasonable thing. So if I wanted to say, I mean, my aim here was to just sort of have a default, which that was a very long-winded way of doing it. I forget if I want these big or small. I just can't seem to remember. Okay, but now all that effort, we can have this. Very exciting. Somehow, did we not copy the whole thing? It sure seemed like I had copied the whole thing. Okay, there it is. So now I can stick this as our config. Now, the problem is our initial slider values are not based on what was in our config, even though we want them to be. So is it default value, then the step? Yeah, so this needs to be M N1 into, no. What have I done? N1 into, yeah, N3. So that came from that. And then this should come from and this should come from almost. That's not a slider. Okay, so now we have this silly idea of like state that we can save and restore in a very ridiculous way because you just cut and paste it, which is not ideal. Our eye-body ratio seems small though. That may be higher than what we actually said our maximum eye body ratio was. Okay, so we have this. Do we care? What do we do now? What do we want to actually do? Want to make more of these? We've been going for 2.5 hours. I mean, just playing with it and just seeing what we could do. We feel very confident we can make this guy. We've made that guy plenty of times. So basically at this point, we can make two-ish of our these bigger. Not crazy about how that radius is at the end. But that's roughly that guy. I don't know. I need floating point values for those other ones. That's like roughly our triangle guy. We don't have any kind of cloning thing that we would need for this guy. We don't have multiple eyeballs that we'd need for some of our other creatures. This guy's kind of a clone around the perimeter thing. This guy's a clone around the perimeter thing. This guy's a clone around the perimeter thing. Even this, to some extent, is. If you wanted to clone a thing at a certain frequency. But I don't know how much further I want to take this, because it's just an example. I am pretty sure I want the eyeball to be possible for the eyeball to be way too big. %, at least. Instantly more adorable. Okay, so our value variation is maybe the thing that really messes us up. Because we kind of want the eyeball, the eye color in particular, I feel like we want pretty high value. Pretty high value and low saturation. Yeah, kind of no matter what else is going on, we kind of want high value, low saturation for the eyeball. And the pupil and the body color are so close. I mean, really, the pupil needn't be too far from whatever the body stroke color is, although that's surprisingly different. We could also argue that the pupil should always be low value, or in this case, low brightness. Could also always say that the pupil is the inverse of the inverse color of the eyeball. Because we do have kind of a high saturation eyeball here, and I actually like it. I like that one. I might like it just as well switched, but also kind of like the cyan and mustard palette we have going for some reason. Where do I get that? Where do I get mustard? I don't think I can, because I think I'm always too low value. Don't know why that would be 5. keep typing numbers I don't mean. It's Patrick. I mean, it's kind of a cute little friend. Our color algorithm is a mess, no question. I feel like anything, like the next thing we do instantly starts to make things a little more complicated. It's not the end of the world, but just something to be aware of. Let's do multiple eyeballs, and then maybe we call it a day. Because that seems key. Multiple eyeballs, and then maybe we like tidy up the color a little bit. Okay. So we have an eye body ratio, so we probably just want an eye count. And the eye count will default to 1. So here's what we need to do. We need to say that if eye count is 1, just draw the eye. And for now, let's just manually set it instead of making a slider. We could, we could totally imagine that we could write. Should we just do it? We could just make something that automatically made sliders for each thing in our config. Would not take that long, but like we don't need to make this tool robust. Because then we'd have to say, well, how do you define the ranges? And each of those would have to have a range and some other data structure. And it's like, it's not, I'm going to say it's not worth it at this moment. So now we want just one more of these guys. And eye count will go from 1. Let's just say 6 for now. And it steps by 1. And position 7. Okay. So as I step up eye count, we need to make sure that we set the slider value equal to that. So now if we go above this, we should lose our eye. So that's great. So now we want to say that if the eye count is greater than 1, we need to loop through and draw the eye count. We know there's at least 2. I plus plus, get it? Get it? Get it? Get it? Get it? Okay, so now this will be crazy because our eyes are just going to be on top of each other. What did I break? I have one too many indents. Do I have not enough indents? What's wrong in here? Oh, because it's config.icount, count, right? That's also not an integer because this is JavaScript. Good grief. Okay. And how many mistakes can I have? Good grief. Okay. So iCount. So we still have iCount. We're actually drawing multiple i's here. So what we need is we are going to start sending an XY to I. We'll manually calculate we'll like mess with our look position if we need to. That's a little annoying. Oh man, it's definitely annoying. Okay, well, whatever, we'll do it. So what we need to do is our same thing. We need to have a radius and all the good stuff. So we need probably in this case we want the eyes to be small. What's wrong? A little confused by this. Oh, we didn't do the thing. Okay. So now we have many eyes and we have multiple eyes because we're going to pop them out. We're going to do the thing. So we just need to say that I divided by 360 and x is the cosine of the angle. Same thing we did above, really, when we're drawing the full circle. And y, but instead of drawing tiny dots, we're drawing eyeballs. Is there like an actual bug in here? Two is weird. Oh, start from 1. Okay. And then y, I don't know what this needs to be. This is whatever our like eye radius is. Okay, and then we're not actually doing anything with this. So now we need to translate x, y. Okay, very good. I didn't multiply y times the offset radius. It means the offset radius is working. No, it doesn't. X is the cosine of the angle times the offset radius, and y is it only working on No, 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 no. This is I out of the count times 360. Okay. It's kind of working. They're just they're just super on top of each other. So one, we need a way bigger radius. So and this breaks our looking also, unfortunately. So I out of I count -1. Okay. So it kind of seems like X is working, but Y is not working. It's like it's not coming back. Actually, they're both wrong. They're both wrong. Oh, no, no. It needs to be, that's a little weirder. It's X and Y, but then whatever that radius is, minus half of it. What? Seemed like the right answer, but now it doesn't. So what happened? It doesn't make sense to me because the sign should be coming back positive and negative. Should already be zero relative, right? Whatever this angle is, we're already translated. Oh, is this because of rotation? Hmm. Okay, just to see. I don't think. No. So we have to do this to be able to rotate the eyes. We don't have to. We could come up with other ways, but that's still not exactly what the problem is. So I'm pretty confused. Turns out. Our ellipse mode should be center. So like, why? Should be -1 and +1, -1 and +1. So if I'm saying to draw the eye times the offset radius, it should be like negative, positive, negative, positive. Negative 64, positive 64 for the x. So starting at 0, why is that not true? Okay, if I don't translate at all, they're just right on top of each other, right? Oh, I don't want to translate, first of all. I just want to draw the eye where I tell it to draw. Very good. So that's good. I also want to kind of do that with the ellipse. I also want to not do this push pop and to kind of do the rotation in a different way. I'm going to just get rid of the rotation for now, because it actually really makes things annoying. Okay, so that'd be a 4 eyeball creature, a 5 eyeball creature, and now our problem is fixing our pupils. Well, it's kind of funny. But it's not quite right. When I go in the middle, it should cross its eyes. And that is because this magnitude is relative to 0, not because it really needs to be like look position minus like our draw position. Because it should always be relative to where we're drawing. So that's kind of annoying. Well, we could do an add in here. So we would need to add the look position That's still not right. Subtract it. Like this little 2 eyeball star is kind of funny. Okay, what's going on? It's me, Jim, the star. I got 2 eyeballs. So, I don't know why the star's name is Jim, but turns out it just is. Turns out this is a. Turns out this is Jim. So This is actually pretty annoying. Because it all needs to be look position relative to so you could maybe do like and then do all your stuff and then well, I'm adding the draw position already. Okay. One eye works. The other eyes are struggling a little bit. Maybe we should never have done this. I'm really just getting confused. It really seems like it should be minus the drawing position, and then you add the drawing position back. That logically seems like the right thing to do. I mean, it clearly isn't working. It's working on one of the eyes, but not on subsequent eyes, which is really strange because this eye still has offsets. Like nothing changes from eye to eye. The XY is what comes in, and that's where we draw the thing. So draw position seems like it's should be correct. Is it just because our draw positions? So why do we only have one eye here? This should be 2. So this should actually be less than or equal to this. That seems wrong. Well, if there's 0, we show 1. If there's 1, so it should actually be like so are we going from 0 on our eye count? Because that would be silly. No, we're saying the minimum eye count is 1 eye. If eye count is greater, like 2, I guess we still want to do this. What's wrong with my logic here? What's my problem? There should be two eyes here. I don't do this. This is not correct. Okay. Still, we have one eye that functions and one eye that kind of functions, and then a bunch of eyes that are just busted. Is it because I'm like, I shouldn't be altering look position? Definitely confusing myself a little bit. No, that didn't. Oh no. Oh, well, that's going to be screwed up because that has like two X's. So this needs to be I. Y. I might be pursuing the wrong problem. Okay, no, that was the correct problem to pursue. Okay, now we have really weird many eyeballed creatures. Like we almost made this guy, but we made that guy inverted. He also doesn't have his nose because this is how it is. I mean, that almost gets us to these guys, these radial clone eyeball guys. You can sort of do this guy. We just have a round. Okay, now the whole rotation thing is, excuse me, extra annoying. But I have an idea on how to deal with that. Maybe. Didn't that seem like it was going to work for a second? What happened? Cosine of the offset angle. How's it going? Fly code. Is it a miracle? Is it a miracle that I'm live? I don't know if it's live. I'm in the middle. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I'm just like, this is supposed to just be like a little fun example of parametric design, and now I've gone down a deep hole. You want to learn what do you need to know about heat? I'm kind of in the middle of something, but you can certainly ask your question. So, what? That angle, we're animating this angle, right? We certainly are. And we probably need to do like mod 360. Maybe? I don't think we actually have to. You know what? I'm almost certain we don't have to do that. Okay. So that kind of seems right. I feel like my brain is stopping functioning properly. If we're animating this angle and we're giving that offset angle in the super formula, and we are using the sine and the cosine of this new offset angle, then what? Then nothing. It just doesn't work. I mean, it's some funny thing where it's just like some exact ratio and it's really rotating and it doesn't look like it's rotating. No, it's not that. Okay, take a step back. Why would that be true? Maybe if we do both, we were like canceling out the rotation. That's pretty weird. Okay, so this makes our eyeballs not animate, but now when we do this little loop, we can do the same thing and have an offset angle and an angel, a nice offset angel. Well, I don't know how we did that. How did I manage that? That was so 1000% not what I meant to do. I kind of think the super form, oh wait. Okay, well, no, we did the cosine, x is cosine, y is sine. X is cosine, y is sine. That's right. Subtract the offset angle. Actually, the main one seems like it is going backwards, now that I think about it. So maybe really, I think the super formula kind of inverts things. So what if we do these angels, and then these angels are just the angels? Whoa, okay. Then we're good, we're good. Now we've got our little friend, we can have our four-eyed friend. We can have our little five eyeball weirdo. I do kind of wish that was, I guess we could add an additional 180 degree offset when we draw the eyeballs. Just because I would just prefer that those eyeballs aligned with, that's funny, the super formula feels like there's some inversion there. Oh my gosh. Oh, you're definitely not bothering me. You're not interrupting. You can totally ask questions. I was just like right in the middle of trying to figure out a problem. Well, Dracula already saved the day. Yeah, no, you're super not bothering. So yeah, so there's kind of two ways to do it. Some of them are sort of made to be green screened, but some of them, do I have one running now? Yes. So the heat examples try to be smart enough to know when they're OBS and make their backgrounds transparent. So if you just add a browser source, and then we did like whatever it is, j38.net/heatmap, and then maybe you do this. I don't feel like I did this. I feel like this came with OBS, and then those same examples from the website should then work. So that's the exact same example as heat.j38/heatmap. And as far as your users giving permission, they don't have to do that unless you specifically want their names or like the auth thing, whatever it's called. Yeah, the thing where you like give permission to your name, you only need to do that if you actually want to use names in Heat. So this is the web browser view, but I also have the OBS overlay, so I think I'll end up with like duplicates. Yeah. So you're seeing both the clicks that are coming through the web browser and the clicks that are coming through OBS. So it should be relatively easy. You should just be able to do a browser source, add that URL. One of the key things you do need to be sure that you do is make sure you use your channel ID, and the Twitch extension will tell you that. Oh, is it? Yeah, sick, 3D. Wait, let's do it with the, we got some nice wiggle vision. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Incredible parallax. The widget, well, I mean, Twitch, Heat itself is transparent on top of the stream. And the only way you know it's there is that your cursor turns into a little circle. But maybe there's something weird with the... Oh, mobile's different. Sorry, mobile is different. And mobile might be broken right now. So mobile only exists because Twitch wanted to try mobile for an event that they did. And so in mobile, you can't click the video like you can normally. You can't click the video itself like you can on desktop. There's this separate grid. And so I'm not actually even sure if I have any demos that use that. Let me see. Okay, so you go here, you click the Heat extension, and it should bring up a grid. Yeah, so it brings up like a grid of buttons here. But none of the examples really use that. I kind of don't like the mobile implementation. Again, it was done specifically for this event that Twitch did. And I kind of need to just pull it out because it's not cool to not be able to click on the screen, in my opinion. You know, click on the video. Yeah, so you are probably getting Heat data. You would just have to write your own extension to do something with it. Like maybe there is I think I have like a hello world. So I'm probably getting that data. These are called grid clicks. Yeah, sorry, I should be more explicit about that. The mobile version is really weird, but these are my clicks that are going through from the mobile app. So you could certainly make something that would use that for sure. But unfortunately, because Twitch mobile doesn't let you click directly on the video, I can't do the thing that you normally do with Heat, which is click and get a heat map. Now, I feel like I should change that. I feel like you're pointing out a serious bug or a serious flaw because it was made just for this one particular event. So it actually sends different kinds of data. It sends a grid event instead of a click event. And there's just like none of the examples really use that. I guess I could. What could I do? I could get rid of the mobile sport. I could make Heat Mobile its own thing. Yeah, it can totally work for that, but for like hidden object, unfortunately, it will only work on desktop. Now, maybe Let's see if I did a good job when I made this. I don't actually know. If I did a good job when I made this, I should have made it where you could... where do I find my thing? Log in with Twitch. It's me. Yes, it's me. Yep, it's still me. Twitch, can you just show me the extensions? Yes, okay. If I made it and I like did it the way I really should, I should have added a way where you could pick the resolution of the grid. But I don't actually remember if I did that. Sorry, give me 1 minute and I will find the thing. Maybe. I don't know where it is. Where does one find such a thing? Extensions. My extensions. Overlay and mobile. Configure. I did a bad job. I think I made a way to... Oh, gosh. I kind of think I made a way where you could globally change that. Like you could globally change the grid. So what I was about to suggest was the idea of changing that grid on the phone to like correspond to the whole screen. And then you would click grid coordinates on your phone and they would correspond to the screen. That would take some work that I can't do right now. I'm sorry. I would like to do that. I think what I would probably do, actually... So you would like for your viewers, your mobile viewers and desktop viewers to be able to do it, right? Like ideally you have mobile and desktop support. Like Heat will give you the desktop support. The mobile support is lacking, but it could be... It wouldn't take a crazy amount of work, but basically what I would do is change it so that you would click that whatever. Right now it is a 1x8 grid on the phone. That would change to some other grid that was of your own devising, but it's pretty confusing because the orientation is weird. Most of your users are mobile. Yeah, so I would be curious, what would you actually think? So knowing that you unfortunately can't click on the video itself because of limitations in the Twitch mobile app, what would be better? Because I could make a grid, like we could have a grid down here and there could be it wouldn't be hard to let you specify the resolution of that grid, but it's going to be weird because it's like, your screen aspect ratio is going to be totally different than the way it's shown, because of the way Twitch renders extensions like this. A 16:9 grid of buttons. And then just maybe like match the aspect ratio. So like whatever the aspect ratio is of the screen, there's a grid of buttons down below. Yeah. It's a little bit of a weird one because I don't necessarily know. I guess you assume that. I don't actually know that. I wonder if that's true. Well, I actually wonder if that's true. Can you broadcast to Twitch in other aspect ratios? Because I think people broadcast 21:9 streams, right? Like widescreen. Ultra wide, whatever that's called. Really wide. Life is Yours would know. Or do they just get black barred? Yeah, I think the phones would be okay, but it's more like if someone is desktop streaming a 21:9 stream. Okay, black bars. I see. Okay. Well, I think I could do that. I am definitely in the middle of a bunch of other projects, but I actually need to migrate Heat to another server anyway. Okay. Here's what I think. I think maybe one day next week I'll try to do a Heat stream and try to migrate Heat and rethink Heat Mobile. Because I could definitely see the value of I could definitely see the value of what you're describing, which was my first idea of how to use Heat Mobile. Was like, oh yeah, this grid, it's like I'm playing Battleship, and there's a whole screen. Um, However, the thing that Twitch wanted was more like, oh, there's an interface on the screen, and you're supposed to be controlling that interface. So maybe you can specify it yourself. What would be kind of cool is to be able to specify some CSS, but I don't think Twitch would let me do that. Like everything is so sandbox with extensions. I don't know that you could just make some arbitrary CSS. I'm not sure that it would allow that. Okay, I will think about this. I will. I'm sorry that it won't do the right thing right now. I definitely have been putting off working on Heat Mobile for a long time. But maybe this is the motivation I need to one day next week. Maybe I'll do a stream, maybe a morning stream. Well, I mean, but even if it's used in a small way, then it's there for other people to use, and it's there for me to use because I actually think that that version is better. Anyway, you know, the version of the thing that lets you as a mobile user click anywhere on the screen, which is what Heat is designed to do anyway. Um, okay, let me think about it, and I will try to get that and get to that in the next few weeks. So yeah, no, I no problem. I thanks for trying out Heat. I think you should try to play with it and make something anyway, even if mobile doesn't exactly work right now. But that's what it needs. It wants. It's just so funny though because that's almost like a different extension. You know what I mean? It's which is fine, but it's like it's not exact XY coordinates on the screen anymore, which is like what Heat is at the core. It's more like, oh, it's an extension that just lets you make a grid of buttons however you want. It's like a configurable button extension. And then you use those buttons for whatever. But okay. Yeah, let me think about it and then I will try to do at least some version of it. I don't think it will take very long. I'll try to do that next week. So we're gonna need that heat patch. Oh man. What about the Redis? That's the main problem with the migration is the Redis security. Okay, what are we even doing? We've got this little guy. This little friend rotates. How long have we been streaming? 3 hours, 20 minutes? Yeah, and you'd probably actually still want that transparent grid so that it was easier to know what's what. In fact, I even have some, yeah, I had some heat code that knows that grid-based coordinate thing and would do like in my old apartment, you could click a light on the wall and it would change the light, or you could click the guitar and play a sound or whatever. Um, yes, so having an overlay and then having a way like a configurable clicky grid. It's just my it starts to feel to me like I want it to be a different extension. Like leave heat as heat online only, and then it still uses the heat backend, but it's called like heat mobile, and it's a separate thing. So I think that's what I would do. Probably. Maybe. Why do I have an unexpected identifier? Okay. I'm like losing steam a little bit. Especially since this was just supposed to be an example, and now I'm like, we're making a real thing, sort of. But then this song came on, and it was like, started to get me kind of pumped. Make our three-eyed triangle friend very large. Yeah, the super formula. We may not use the super formula. Maybe we'll use the super formula for like little ornaments that get created. Gosh, Dracklin, he just told you what the use case was. Where have you been all day? It's a hidden object game. I think. Ooh, maybe it should be an advent calendar where you can click and then you eat whatever chocolate they click. I'm pretty sure I actually did make that XY config thing. The PUBG waypoint thing. Oh yeah, what did we... What's that called? I don't know what it's called. GitHub, I 100% of the time when I go to GitHub, I want to see my repositories. That's all I ever want to see. And I don't like it. I feel like it like never takes me to the place I want to be. Viewer, that thing was called... markers. This thing? Does this work? Is this the right one? Yeah. And then each individual users only get one marker. That's how we did it. So I could do this. Or I could look at Sisyphus. So I could put this as an overlay. And then I think everybody only gets one marker. Is that how we did it? Where's my... Wait, no. It's over. Oh, hey, good shot. I missed. The little guy's very interested about what's going on in that corner. What's going on over there? Hi, little friend. Oh yeah, so individual users can have a marker. Yeah, marker, that example is there and it's on GitHub. It just doesn't use, I don't think it supports grid commands. Okay. Yeah, I kind of want to do that, but there's a cost. There's a cost to changing gears, you know? My brain is so on all these other projects I'm working on. I mean, I kind of want to swim around and look at each other and... I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I kind of want to be done for the day. I just don't know. There's a certain point where getting deep on this is not useful because this is not the platform we're going to use. It's not the design language we're going to use necessarily. Like, I think it was helpful. Sort of think through it a little bit, but. Let's do one more thing. So I wonder if actually what would be nice is if the sliders told you their parameters, but I don't think they do, which is annoying, but that's okay. But if we just did a randomize function and then set all of our sliders equal to we could almost get away with maybe we can massage these into I can't do the multi-line select thing in here that I can do in VS Code. Oh, it would be this. So I could just select my equal signs and change them. Maybe. And this would be like map. Is that what? A random value. Problem is these are not gonna necessarily give us integer values, right? Also, I just screwed up because this is not how you use the map function. Oh. Oh yeah, I 1000% did this wrong. I did this impressively wrong. Why do you let me do things like that? So we want to map a random value from 0 to 1, from 0 to 12, 1 to 12. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3. Really? What's wrong here? Map, first parameter is random. I've lost some commas somehow. That's my problem. I feel like that I made that way harder than it should have been, but okay, I like that guy with the tiny weird eyes. That guy was pretty good. Okay, most of these suck. These are mostly not good. These are mostly not good creatures, but some of them are pretty good. Okay, so let's just say, for example, what if I wanted relatively small friends who So the eye-body ratio, our range is not great, I'm going to say. Yeah, what? Why? Eye-body ratio slider. We made poor choices with that one. I mean, it is sometimes funny when their eyes are that small. It's kind of, it is silly. How do we get these wild arms? That's N2 and N3. Yeah, it's kind of dangerous because these have an inverse relationship. This is by these ones that we get that look like they have some kind of overlap problem. Look like they double back on themselves or something. So I think what if you're just always this? Yeah, what is this weirdness? Look at that body. Look at that body. Maybe we just don't actually want to get that small. But it really depends on what this number is doing. Because we can get that small. I mean, I could almost imagine some kind of training. Like training it for what looks good and what doesn't. Yeah, it's kind of better when these are have an inverse relationship. So I almost want to say that this should just be equal to 1 minus... Well, that wouldn't work unless we did it with the same random value. But you know what I mean? A lot of these just kind of suck. Like, what's going on here? What's your problem? We want to at least be M1. Kind of have my doubts about the super formula. feel like I would just want to do primitives like hexagonal or what, you know, whatever our primitive of choice was, and then whatever our primitive of choice was, and then find ways around it. Which I don't think that would be too hard. I think we could figure that out. You kind of have two radiuses and then kind of ping pong between the two, and then just have some way to give a radius to round off those corners. That seems like a thing a person should be able to do. Probably. Okay. Well, I'd kind of hoped today to get this to at least to the point that we would be interested in capturing something as a study. But I'm kind of not feeling it. It is kind of funny to have the little creep following whatever I do. I mean, there are some nice shapes that you get from the super formula, but there's just, maybe we would want to just use those as kind of things that could be, you know, like primitive parts to be cloned around, but that it feels a little too wild. Just too wild. Especially just range-wise, where you can get stuff like that, which is like crazy inflation. Maybe I blew it. Maybe it was wrong to do the super formula all along. Okay, I think I'm going to call it. We streamed for a long time. We learned some things about ourselves and each other. We have some little points on the screen. It kind of seems like the video gain changed again for no reason at all. No? It's still 64. My preference. A power of 2. I mean, it's just a little more sunlight in here today. Okay. Anyway, these heat dots are kind of weirding me out. I don't think I can get rid of them. I got rid of them. Okay, so yeah, we did some stuff. We made a parametric thing. We have a kind of a vague understanding of maybe what we might want to do. It's going to be a lot of rules. That's what this is going to come down to. It's going to be lots of like possible parts and a lot of rules. And so for me, the big architecture question is, are there sort of existing systems and approaches to managing rules like that? Like to manage a bunch of parametric constraints, or does it become like, 85 if statements or something like that? I'm trying to think of some existing things. I can kind of think of some stuff, like there's stuff for making decisions based on a set of parameters. So I could do, that's a lovely creature. Who's this creature? Trinua? Well, okay, maybe this isn't a bad idea, actually. If you want one-to-one input and output, like you tie a slider to a value. But if you want to start looking at the state of the sliders and starting to make decisions based on those states, there's ways to do that called, oh boy, I don't know if I even want to get into this. Like, now what are they called? What are you called? I'm going to switch to Google for this. Flycode, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. We'll try to get some stuff done on heat in the near future. Future. The thing I want to... What is the thing I want? Oh, RETE? RETE, visual programming. No. It's a RETE algorithm. RETE. That's what it is. It's okay. Yeah, it's a pattern matching algorithm for implementing rule-based systems. So I've done a little bit of work in this realm. I've worked on a project where it's heavily used, but definitely I barely understood what was going on in a lot of ways. But the general idea is you have a whole bunch of rules that kind of look at the state of whatever, in this case, like the state of the parameters, and the system makes choices based on those rules. And there's lots of different rule engine. That's the word that I wanted. I don't know if I want to go here. I don't know that I need to go here. I mean, the question really becomes like these choices of, hey, if this is true and this is true, you should do this. If this is true and this is true and this is true, instead you should do this unless this already happened. Like I could see that kind of coming together for a sort of parametric, as part of a parametric system where you have the parameters, and then separate from those parameters, you have the rules that kind of determine how those parameters are mixed and matched, and then you have the outcome of whatever is actually applied to the system. So I can imagine like having something in the middle here. I'm not showing any of this, am I? It just looks like this. It's not exciting. It's a crazy graph that explains how rate networks work. So I don't know. This feels like, I guess I feel right now like this is too little because this is just going to get out of hand. But that a really complicated rule system like that is maybe too much. So I don't know. I got to think about it. Okay. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. We will talk again soon. Have a lovely day.